So many of you may know who I am. I'm Don Winkle. I'm teaching and building entrepreneurship at John Carroll University, but a lot of you may not have run across or met up with my compadre here, Justin. And so we wanted to take a chance to kind of introduce him and give you a bit of his perspective. So, Justin, how did you get here? So I took the traditional path of getting a PhD and going through, and jumping through all those hoops and hurdles, but you took a little bit of different path. So how'd you get to the point of building an experiential curriculum for entrepreneurship classes at the university?
Yeah. I think when I think about my journey as it relates to being here, I think that the most salient point comes from when my co-founder and I, on our first company, were sort of driving back from our meeting with our our flagship client, and realizing that despite working with them for months and them telling us how excited they were about our product, my co-founder and I realized that they weren't actually going to use it. Yeah, so this was after
That's a telling sign.
Yes, yeah, it was not a fun ride. So, before that, I had gotten my degree in computer science. I was working at Microsoft for several years. I left there to go start this company, a healthcare software company, with all of the, everything that I'd been told that I was really good at in life. I worked really hard. I was pretty smart. I could write code. And I sort of thought like that, those are the things that you needed to be successful in business. And I had a real passion for business. So we dove in and realized, after about a year and a half and a pile of money, that this isn't working. And so after that, I took a long time to kind of read up and understand, like, what did I have wrong? What was I missing? And that got me onto Steve Blank stuff and Eric Ries's stuff and Ash Moira's stuff. This is back in 2009 or so. And at that point, even today, still kind of, it's pretty theory based, right? Like, why
Right.
we should get out of the building, and here's why, but not a lot of information on how to do it. And so when I realized that, oh my gosh, the reason why my company failed is because we built something that no one wanted, and that the solution to that problem is to go figure out what people want first and then go build it, then I was hooked. I bought into it, but I didn't really understand how to go do it. So over the next several years, 5 years or so, I started playing around with these principles over and over again, and then documenting that. And ended up documenting that on a blog called Customer Dev Labs. And that was just like, it was, so the genesis of the blog was, I'd read this study that becoming overweight was contagious. Like, the idea being that if someone in your social group becomes overweight, it is more likely for you to become overweight. And the reason being that it becomes like socially acceptable, to eat larger portions, or maybe not to exercise or not. And it was a fascinating idea to me. I don't really know if it's true, but it got me thinking about, like, hey, in this startup community that I was in, I was hearing so much advice around, if you build a great product, people will come, and just go out and launch something and see how it goes, and keep building features until someone buys it. And it was just like, wait, this is all wrong. Like, this is all of us doing unhealthy things for our lives and our businesses. But
Right.
if Customer Dev Labs, or if I was one voice among many who was trying to say, well, here's what it looks like to try a different path, and we'll see if it works. That's kind of the notion of the blog. Anyway, fast forward, the blog kind of becomes more popular than any of the startups that I was working on, and there's a lot of people hungry for advice on, how do we actually interview, and what does it look like to interview people, and how do we go and find people to interview with, and how do we test prices and get press and all this kind of stuff. And that blog turned into a number of speaking opportunities and working with startup accelerators. Some really interesting and great programs like Startup Weekend and Techstars and Google for Entrepreneurs. And then from there was demand for what was essentially like the workshops that I was running in a box. So we put together these experiential activities to teach to entrepreneurs. Uh, and then that is what brought us to this curriculum, because these experiential activities we were using to teach entrepreneurs these principles, we were seeing more and more demand from people inside universities, which is why I contacted you, because you obviously know that world so well, and that's kind of how we got to where we are today.
And so why, I mean, what is it that drives you to kind of say, let's mess around with some curriculum for academics, because we're not the easiest world to penetrate or to survive or innovate in. And so, why here instead of, going down, continuing down, right, Techstars and Google, and I mean, those are like sexy things to play around and have a lot of fun with. And so why that switch?
To me, it's the multiplicative factor of working with teachers. So the idea that the impact we get to have is not just on the people that I interact with, but it's the people that I'm able to help serve who interact with people. That's super compelling. So the number of people that we get to reach and impact going through a curriculum route is orders of magnitude larger than if we continue down the accelerator path, which we still will, but like this has become I'm really, really excited about this. And also because there's the principles that we're teaching, the principles that I'm most passionate about, basically all boil down to empathy. That we are teaching people how to understand other people's perspectives and then help those other people solve their own problems. And that I could do that for a small group of people who are interested in high-tech startups is interesting. That's great, and I'd be happy to do that. Moving into the university space, we are getting to help students with all kinds of backgrounds and who will follow all sorts of paths going forward, whether that means they will start their own companies or whether they'll work for other companies or they'll go work for the government. The skills that we can teach them to help understand other people's problems and build successful products or programs or platforms because they understand those people means that the breadth of impact that we get to have is so much larger. So yeah, just the size and the breadth of impact that we get to have by helping in the universities is what's compelling to me.
Yeah, and so I'm curious, as we're kind of messing around and trying to effectuate some change in different ways of approaching education, and certainly this whole entrepreneurship education thing. I mean, from an outside type perspective, where would you love to see? Where do you think entrepreneurship education should go? Like what sort of path should we get on? Because there's the business plans, and now there's this sort of lean approach with Blank and Reese and Ash and all that. Who knows what maybe the next iteration would be. So what do you think that should be?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. I think where my mind goes is that we don't know what the next iteration should be. And so I would love for us to embody these principles so that we have a systematic way to discover the next best approach. So by that I mean, like, I love it when I hear and I see professors treating their class like a startup, where they are building in the same mechanisms. So they're creating hypotheses. Here's my hypothesis for this class. Here's the experiment I'm going to run for this class, and here's the metric I'm going to use to measure whether we have impact. That professors who are treating their students like customers and getting feedback from them. Professors who are treating the people who will receive their customers after their class as customers. So the greater entrepreneurial community or the greater business community. Basically, the professors who act like entrepreneurs, I think, are the ones who are most set to be able to make sure their students thrive, but also be most receptive to new concepts and ideas as they come forward. So I'd love to see and support as much of that as possible.
Gotcha. And as we're doing this, and this fall, we kind of have this fall, this pilot cohort using our curriculum and everything, and so there's a good dozen or so of professors at schools around the U.S. and up into Canada. So as you're engaging with them, what's kind of been the most exciting thing to you about this new journey?
Okay, so the before we even got to the fall pilot, the most exciting thing was that people wanted it, right? So
Yeah, right.
just like talking about,
Start at the basic.
yeah, we try and practice what we preach, and so before we even got to the pilot, we wanted to test, like, is there demand for this? And I know, just like so many other products that I've been a part of, I really, really wanted people to want it, but that's less important than people actually wanting it. So,
Right.
so that was the most exciting thing when we found out that there was demand for this and that we could try to bring experiential learning and into the class and sort of get rid of textbooks and get rid of lectures. Then since the fall pilot has happened, I think what's been most exciting for me is we're implementing a new, speaking of like a system and a way to kind of that build, measure, learn loop. We've implemented the ability for students to give us real feedback on every exercise that we put in front of them. And it's not just your thumbs up, thumbs down, 1 to 5 stars kind of feedback. It's actually emotionally driven feedback, right? And so basically, we've got a number of different pictures of different emotions. You have people experiencing different emotions. So do the students feel confident? Do they feel excited? Do they feel angry, confused? And when we get to see that feedback, especially in an aggregate level, it tells us how students literally feel about this course and about the curriculum, which gives us the feedback loop we need to go and make changes and make improvements, and to know which things not to touch at all because we're doing well at. So having that data is really exciting to me because it makes our job easier, and I'm also really excited to turn that into some form of engagement analytics for professors, so that our customers, the professors, don't have to wait till the end of the term to like really get some quantitative data about how the class is going. Like, we can do it in real time in an anonymous way, but so that it's still truthful, but so that professors know exactly kind of how their students are feeling and engaging with the material. So yeah, that data has been the most exciting.
Yeah, I would agree too. I mean, that's, as a professor, I usually get this feedback about the student's experience at the end of the semester after it's over. And so just as a professor, the ability to think about, hey, my students are getting the opportunity to deliver feedback as we go at the moment, and being able to see, from our standpoint behind the scenes, being able to see student feedback and go, oh, Todd's angry after going through this lesson. Let's get a hold of Todd and learn about what's going on, and we can address that and sort of talk to him or whatever. Or somebody's crazy excited about something. I mean, that I agree. That ability to get that feedback I think is a phenomenal tool for us to learn, but also to be able to share with those profs. Yeah. So as you're, we get a lot of feedback from the students. We get a ton of feedback from the pilot professors. We get a lot of feedback from professors who, have conversations and are interested in potentially using this, and we get feedback from them. So, what do you think's been kind of the most surprising thing as we've dove into this fall pilot?
The most surprising thing, I think for me, it's probably that we were wrong about some things. I guess it shouldn't be surprising that we were wrong, right? Because that's the whole point. What's been surprising, I think, is what we were wrong about. So we made some assumptions about how it would be easiest for our professors to interact with our content. Like, we made a big bet on Google Drive. And yeah, I mean, just to be totally transparent, like the lessons that we put together for professors to run are miniature workshops, right? And so these aren't like, hey, here's a slide deck, here's how to read through it, and then here's the bubble test that you run afterwards. This is 60 minutes of 2 to 3 interactive activities. They all have several moving parts. And, for someone who's, for those professors and teachers who are used to teaching that way, especially if they teach outside of academic settings, that may be more normalized. But that's not we didn't present it in a way that our professors can easily consume and prep for that. At least not easy enough. So we need to do a better job there. So that's been surprising. Just that, I say surprising, and like that's been the thing that I'm most eager to go and fix. And so as you know, we've already started working on design plans to change that, to make it so we can take these big experiential activities, and then our goal is that a professor would be able to prep them with less than an hour's worth of prep, be able to have it all integrated and go. So I think that's, when we talk about surprise, I think I'm sort of combining surprise with like, okay, well, how do we go from here and sort of make it better going forward?
Yeah. And so what's the next step? I mean, as we look at spring cohorts and spring semester and all that, what does that look like? How do people get involved? What can people do to dive in with us?
Yeah, so I think where we're at right now is this will be our second pilot coming up, and we'll begin to be changing a number of things. The content will largely remain the same. We'll definitely be tweaking some things based on student feedback, but we're going to change some of the underlying technology to make it smoother both for the students and for the professors. And so we're still going to be pretty limited in our piloting, because we don't want to expose everyone to what could have or what will have bugs. And so we're going to keep it pretty small. So if there's if someone watching this is part of a program that really is eager to get involved and be here early and is able to provide us feedback on a regular basis and have their students provide us feedback, then let us know, because we still have, I think probably have somewhere between 5 and 10 slots available for the pilot. But then after that, we're planning on fall of 2018. That will be the big launch and the big availability. So by then, we hope to have worked out all of the major kinks and have these systems in place to go and iterate and update the content as applicable. And so that's the big launch then. So for your hardcore early adopters who want to get in, get their hands dirty, and actually shape what we're doing, now's the time. If you kind of want a more baked product and something that other people have tested for you, then fall 2018 is the time to jump in.
Yeah, and sort of shameless plug, if you're looking to engage with Justin and I on a much more sort of face-to-face or interpersonal level, both of us are going to be at the USASB conference in Hollywood in January. If you go to usasbe.org is their website to sign up to that conference. We would love to meet up, sort of pick your brains and answer questions and show you what we're up to. Just another place to meet up with us for those that are going. So, well, it's been a pleasure working with you, Justin, and it's now sort of a pleasure to kind of introduce you to the community, because I know a lot of people are a little more familiar with my face and my name, and so we wanted to bring you out from behind the curtain.
I appreciate it. It's been great working with you, Doan, and the professors that have had a chance who are in the pilot that we're working with, they've been awesome. So I'm really excited to meet more of you, hang out with more of you, talk with more of you, learn from more of you, both in this channel but also at USASB. So I'm really excited to go and hang out and meet you guys there.
Sounds good. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you.